The subject of death is taboo. It's something we don't usually talk about until it affects us directly. And because it's taboo to talk about death, mostly we don't think about it either. We chase away thoughts of dying when they intrude while we are healthy. When we are sick, we may dwell on our own mortality, but not for long, and not particularly optimistically. However, there's an aspect of death that most people rarely think about, but I believe that they should. Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, Living an Unlived Life, where my goal is to find contentment by honouring my dreams, where I'm actively transforming regret and disappointment into a life of satisfaction in my later years. Longevity runs in both sides of my family. 3 of my 4 grandparents lived until their mid-90s. The 4th sadly died of cancer at age 70. He'd been a car mechanic working in a garage pit underneath the car, as mechanics did in the days before hydraulic hoists, and over the years he'd breathed a lot of toxic exhaust fumes. My mother lived until she was 100, despite smoking until she was 60 and enjoying her nightly gin and tonic, 3 hip replacement operations and a broken pelvis in her 80s. She had a stoic survivalist attitude which carried her through. I'm sure my father would have lived to be much older than 84 had he not suffered post-traumatic stress disorder because of his experiences in the Second World War fighting in New Guinea and, after retirement, suffering depression and chronic anhedonia which deprived him of any enthusiasm to live. Sometime in my 30s, I got to thinking about why people died when they did. Excluding accidents and some genetic disorders, the age at which someone dies is not a random event. It is not a function of an elaborate lottery, nor is it a function of a grand cosmic plan. Death is, one way or another, primarily a product of our own actions, be they abrupt or, more often, indirect and incremental. People die for one of 3 reasons: physical malaise, mental malaise, or misadventure. As guardians of our own destiny, we have the power to influence and redirect all 3. When we are in our teens, the concept of mortality is a long way from daily reality. Most teenagers do not particularly care what they eat, and many have a strong sense of adventure, the risks of which they mostly do not assess. Detachment from any sense of mortality in our teens sets a pattern for later years, our 20s, 30s and 40s, when the distance between current time and eventual death is still perceived as being too far away to have much influence on our behaviour in areas that will ultimately have a direct impact on how long we live. Into our 50s and 60s, thoughts of longevity start to creep into our minds and our conversations. Part of how long we expect to live depends on how old we are feeling at any particular time. A midlife crisis is often brought on by the thought of feeling old, or by reaching a significant birthday, or by retiring from the salaried workforce. Yet feeling old is simply a function of factors relating to our physical health and mental attitudes. My maternal grandmother died when I was 35. I remember thinking that 93 was an admirable age for her to have achieved, and I decided on the day of her funeral that I would live to at least that age. Sometime later, I revised the age to at least 100. Then, after my mother died, I decided to better that, so my current goal is 105. However, the point of making a decision at age 35 to live a very long life is that it had a profound impact on my lifestyle choices on a daily basis. I had always exercised and eaten a healthy diet, but as the years passed, I constantly recommitted to maintaining my physical health as best I could, for I knew this was the key to deliberate longevity. Then 4 years ago, at age 67, for reasons that I will explain in another video, I decided to learn to ride a motorcycle. When I passed the road-ready test and bought my first motorbike, a Harley-Davidson Street 500, I suddenly felt much younger, telling people that I felt like I did when I was 40. This liberating feeling incited me to hire a personal trainer to improve my fitness and to ultimately upgrade my motorbike to something much more powerful, then taking a 1-month motorcycle tour for 12,000 kilometres across Australia. Feeling 3 decades younger lasted for about 3 years until, through a series of debilitating circumstances, I suffered a severe psychological setback that shunted me forward in time again by about 2 decades. After 6 months of active mental rehabilitation, I recovered my psychological strength, and, in turn, regained the feeling of being 30 years younger than my chronological age. I don't believe I could have done this without a firm conviction that I was going to live a long life and that therefore I needed to be strong and healthy, both physically and mentally. From what I see around me, from how I see my peers behaving, I believe that making a decision early in life to live a long life has a direct impact on one's ability to do so. Even if you're in the later years of your life, there can be no better use of your time than constructively thinking about how long you'd like to live and then creating a goal-oriented strategy to get there in good physical and mental health. The beneficial consequences of making an active decision to live a long life are, I believe, too significant to ignore. In my next episode, I describe why you suffer from procrastination, how to break through it, and the process you can use to start the search for a better life. For more information about living your own unlived life, if you go to my website, you can download a copy of my free book, Living Your Unlived Life, Finding Contentment by Honouring Your Dreams. And if it's your thing, you could like this video and subscribe to my channel.